As a kid, I remember watching these old black and white movies from like the 1930s, 1940s, and there was this sophisticated, bubbly blonde, and as she trounced from the room, she leaned back in saying, "A little bit itchy." We thought it was hysterical. It made absolutely no sense. A little bit itchy. So forever and a day, whenever we left the room, we'd lean back in, "A little bit itchy." And it wasn't until later in life, it suddenly occurred to me, oh, she was saying, "Arrivederci," the Italian word for goodbye till next time we meet. And it got me thinking, this is kind of like advice, because we can hear it, but it's not until we make sense of it that it kind of sinks in. So I've reached out to 2 working actors for their career advice. And my question to them was this: what didn't they tell you at drama school? Hi, I'm Scott, and you're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. And if you're new here, be sure to press that little bell icon after you subscribe so YouTube tells you whenever I drop a new video. Now these days, being a triple threat is just a given. And these 2 actors, Amanda Bishop, Chelsea Plumley, embody this new paradigm. Yes, they sing, dance and act. They also write, produce and so much more. Plus they're just thoroughly decent human beings. Now, under my current state of lockdown, I can't bring them into the studio, so I have asked them for notes, which I'll share. But if you like what you hear, be sure to give them some love in the comments so I can bring them back here in person sometime. Now, what can I say about Chelsea Plumley, the beautiful and talented? She's a leading lady of musical theatre, a cabaret artist in Melbourne, Sydney, New York, London, Mumbai. She's the Australian host of Sing Along Sound of Music and Love Actually in concert, Queen of the Fairies in Channel 9's Magical Tales. She's a pianist, repetitor. She does a brilliant vocal workshop for singers if you ever get a chance. And the first thing she says they don't tell you in drama school is that you have to work 10 times harder in the real world to generate your career. They tell you it's tough. You know it's going to be competitive. But at drama school, you spend so much time on the craft, doing the work, which is as it should be, that you're never fully prepared for the reality of the industry, of getting the work and surviving it. So one thing that's hard is that uneasy balance we have to tread as performers. On the one hand, we're expected to be close to our emotions, vulnerable, because we're telling human stories and we have to access those emotional parts of ourselves and connect with other performers and connect with an audience. On the other hand, we're also expected to be resilient and immune to rejection because our work is public, so we're going to be scrutinised. Plus, every job is a new audition. And while every audition is a perfect opportunity for us to demonstrate our potential, we're not going to get them all. Some people are not good at auditions. Sometimes we just have an off day. And sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with our skill. You know, maybe marketing wanted to go a different way. Maybe they already had contracts in place and the audition was a formality. I've been there. Maybe you're too tall, wrong hair colour, wrong voice type. Maybe you were too pretty and they didn't want you to outshine the leading actor. That's what I tell myself. Living the dream. The point is, we don't always know why we don't get the job. So Chelsea says, we need to remember it isn't personal, it's business. I mean, it feels personal because we pour our heart and soul into it. We want that job, we need the work. But she says we have to learn to commit to the outcome, which is getting the job, but without being so attached to it that we end up comatose in bed for 3 days because we didn't get it. She says, largely it's a game of chance and there's only so much we can control. We have to move on to the next opportunity. And this is perhaps one of the hardest things to learn, particularly when we're starting out, is that an agent doesn't hand us work. An agent is an intermediary. They field opportunities, occasionally offers. They negotiate contracts and so much more. But it's up to us to ace the audition. Unless we're an A-lister, no one's asking for us. And even then, we probably still have to audition. So it's up to us to bring opportunities to our agent, whether it's projects we hear about, projects we create, collaborations with other artists, following up on conversations we have with directors, producers, writers. So an agent isn't a free pass to work. It's a partnership and we have to be a proactive partner. And nobody tells us it's going to be tough playing the lead because we all want it, but it might not be as cushy as you think. I mean, obviously it's a bigger workload because it's a larger role, but there's also an unspoken rule that you set the pace and tone for the rest of the cast, that you lead by example, maintain morale. But some of the cast are going to resent you because they auditioned for your part. You're also going to be doing publicity, which either takes you out of rehearsal or adds to your workload. Plus, all eyes are on you for the success of the show. So be careful what you wish for. But we can prepare for success, honing our skills and being ahead of the game at every rehearsal. Then there's the myth of the jobbing actor, because we look at Hollywood A-listers and we think that all actors are highly paid. But most actors, even successful ones, live from job to job. We don't always have back-to-back work. And then when we do work, unless we're one of those A-listers and we're highly in demand and bankable, the average paycheck is probably no more than any other profession. So it doesn't necessarily pay enough to compensate for those gaps in between jobs, particularly in theatre, where an actor can never be paid as much as, say, a lead actor in a film. Because in a film, a producer can pay them more up front, knowing they can recoup their costs on a worldwide audience. But in a theatre, there's only so many seats in there on a single night, so there's immediately a cap on ticket sales and a cap on actors' salaries. But on the upside, if you're touring a show, you at least have some continuity of work, although there are no residuals and it doesn't go into syndication in the way that, say, US television would. And I remember Mandy saying, and I'll introduce her in a moment, how mind-blowing it was to realise that more people saw her on the first night of her TV series than in the entire run of a very successful theatre production she'd just been in. So, Amanda Bishop, masterful, gorgeous, hilarious, known for playing Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard in the TV series At Home with Julia, for her chameleon-like characterisations and vocals on TV sketch comedy, for political satire in The Wharf Review, for children's TV, Law and Order SVU. She's been a presenter, vocal ranger, and one thing they don't tell you, she says, is that money comes from wherever you need it to, and come it must. One of the big reasons we lose a lot of talented people from the industry is not because they don't love the work, but the inconsistency of work and the uncertainty that brings can be soul-destroying. And just think of the 5 top life stresses, the 5 big ones: death, illness, job loss, moving house, divorce. And creatives face at least 2 of these most days of the week. We're constantly looking for work. We're frequently expected to relocate at a drop of a hat, and that can put pressure on relationships. So it's no wonder some of us get to a point where we ask whether the cost of the career is worth the reward. Because when we have other obligations, whether it's children, paying a mortgage, just wanting to pay our bills on time, it's a very real issue of survival. Mandy says we all start out carving out our careers and rejecting jobs because they don't have enough exposure, or they don't fit our brand or our image or the trajectory we had in mind, only to realise that the number of jobs we actually need to take just to make ends meet would baffle most people, particularly the tax office. And think about it, a guest role on television, one episode could be 1 to 3 days work. Then you're looking for the next job. Now, Mandy and Chelsea both have CVs as long as your arm, and by any measure, you would say they're successful, they're talented, highly regarded, highly awarded. But Mandy wants you to know she has done those costume jobs in shopping malls. She's busked in 5-part harmony in those same shopping malls. She's busked in tunnels, at the beach. She's done waitering, bar work, fashion work. She'd like a little bit more of that. She's sung Christmas carols in rock bands in pubs wearing nothing but skimpy outfits and engaging the audience with air bass guitar. She's done performance art at major gallery exhibitions, improvising responses to visual art, even though she knows nothing about it. So she says, get ready for anything. I mean anything, and enjoy the ride. And this is the power of saying yes to opportunity and not being above the small jobs. It's also the power of networking, because the job itself might not be much. Maybe it's with the next Spielberg. Directors have to start somewhere too. And what is it they say, there are no small parts, only small actors? I mean, just quietly, I've worked with actors whose parts are much smaller than they make out, but I'll never tell. And if you're rejecting acting jobs because they're not glamorous enough, think of it this way. Would you rather be known as an actor who works in a restaurant, or an actor who does brilliant things off the beaten path? I know what I'd choose. Because when it comes to that weird-ass acting job, Mandy says embrace it, enjoy it, and make the most of the opportunity to learn something. Because whenever you're acting, you're building your skills, you're oiling the machine, maintaining momentum. But when you're doing that day job, you're just treading water, getting rusty. And sometimes that's necessary. But if you have the choice, bring on the lowly and strange. You'll be a better actor for it. And that's not to say you shouldn't be ambitious. Of course, yes, you should. But you need to ask, what do I do in the meantime till I get to that goal? And how do I get to that goal? Because having a body of work, however modest, shows you're prepared to get your hands dirty and you're more than just a one-hit wonder. And that's appealing to any director. I mean, the one exception here is dinner theatre, which succeeds as neither dinner nor theatre. Just put the contract down. Nobody needs to get hurt. Now this next one, they do kind of tell you in drama school, but not in so many words. And Chelsea says, know how you occur, how you come across to others. Ask people about your strong suits. Do you have noticeable mannerisms, speech patterns, physical traits, personality tics? Ask people how they think you'd be cast, because you might have designs on playing certain roles, but if that's not the vibe you embody, you either need to change that vibe by dialing up or down the flavour of those characteristics, or change your expectations to look for roles that do embrace your vibe. Or imagine you come across as kind of flaky at auditions. You might do the best acting ever, but if they're not confident that you'd rock up to rehearsal on time, let alone prepared, then it could cost you the job. So are you someone people want to work with? Can you listen? Do you look like you're listening? Are you a person of your word, someone of integrity? And this is just self-awareness. It's good for life. It's good for the characters we play. So how do you occur? And this feeds into Chelsea's other tip, which is to be coachable and take direction. No matter how big a star you are, she says, there's no room for defensiveness in the rehearsal room. We have to be open to giving and receiving feedback and ideas. And for new graduates, resist that urge to keep saying, oh, well, at drama school, we ... fill in the blanks. Because you've undoubtedly learned a great deal. But there's still a lot to learn, and there are other ways of doing things. Not that you don't have anything to contribute. You do, of course. You're part of the process. So practice humility, listen, and allow contributions from friends, experts, casting directors, because usually it's not personal, but it can improve our game. And if it is personal, now we can ask, how do I occur? Can I change it? And be kind to myself in the process. On the other hand, it's not all love and sunshine. And Mandy says it takes all kinds to put on a show. Just because we're actors doesn't mean we share the same values. We have different backgrounds, experience, expectations, beliefs, but we're coming together in this very intense time frame, in an intense personal space and emotional space. And not everyone's going to be nice. Maddie says she's been in rehearsal rooms where she's not allowed to address an actor directly or look them in the eye, or where certain actors haven't turned up until the preview of the show, and so with no negotiation of the space, the blocking, the staging, no collaboration on the material, they expect everyone else to fit in with them. And it can be infuriating, but sometimes we have to roll with it. It's not that we can't expect more. And to that end, Chelsea says, treat everyone with respect, no matter what. Don't undermine or gossip fellow performers or backstage crew. If you really have a beef with someone, follow due process, talk to the stage manager. And keep in mind when you're on tour, you could be with these people 24 hours a day for months on end, rehearsing, performing, socializing, sharing a hotel room. So you're going to learn way too much about their personal lives. Mandy says there are going to be tantrums, addictions, tempers, friendships, romances, belittlings, bolsterings, and the audience should see none of it. As far as they're concerned, it's a seamless show and we're one big happy family. And that's just being professional. You know, pretending to like someone when you cheerfully stab them in the eye with the back end of a toe shoe. Professional. Another thing they don't tell you at drama school, and this one's from Andy, is you're going to be heckled much harder by kids than by any adult audience. She said 5-year-olds have been so mad with her villains, they've leapt to their feet, gritted teeth, red-faced, and mimed, punching her. And that's just in a classroom. But she said high school students are much more intimidating for an actor. I mean, firstly, because they're your height, but also because they're easily bored, hard to impress. But she says best theatre training ever, because you've got to be present. You can't just dial it in. You've got to be on your toes. And here's something else they don't tell you at drama school. And yes, it's good to be driven and focused and ambitious, but you've got to have something else going on in your life. And this is not that old thing of having something to fall back on, but if all you have is acting, then when you're not working, what do you have? Who are you? What fills that void? Because there's going to be downtime through no fault of your own, whether it's days, weeks, or months. So what makes that time rich for you? What fills your cup? What sustains you creatively, emotionally, intellectually? And what life experience can you bring to your roles? Because look, I hate to burst your bubble, and this might come as a terrible shock, but most characters in stories are not actors. So Chelsea says, keep educating yourself in all aspects of being human. Have hobbies. Be curious about all of life and not just your career. And this is the existential question. How do you define yourself? Me, I'm a total geek for orchids. Obsessed. My house is full of them. I'm talking hundreds. And for me, they're a change of mindset. So when I'm not the composer guy or the YouTube guy, I'm the orchid guy, or the playing with my cats guy, or having dinner with family guy. You get the idea. And if some of this sounds like a cautionary tale, I don't want you to feel disheartened. On the contrary, I want you to feel empowered to treasure that creative spark, to feed that flame, and then protect it so you don't burn out. And looking at my notes from Mandy and Chelsea, they've shared so many tips about craft, career, backstage etiquette. I just can't fit it all in one video. So do shout them out in the comments so we can bring them back again in person, and check out the links in the description. I'm also toying with the idea of doing maybe a short series on building a career, looking at things like how to work with an agent, how to audition, tools of the trade, CV, headshots, building a business plan. Would that be interesting? Let me know. So if you're a working actor, what didn't they tell you at drama school? What surprised you? And share it with the community. We'd love to hear. So thank you so much for watching again. I appreciate you so much. Until next time, a little bit itchy. That's my bubbly blonde impression. Not that I'm so blonde, but I can be sophisticated.